very warm welcome. You're watching India Fights Back with your host Kriti Mishra. We have been constantly talking about preventive measures like keeping physical distance, washing and sanitizing hands, using masks and staying away from the crowded places. But we also have to pay attention to the stress which a patient and the family passes through. So we have to remember that patience, not panic, is the key to handling the COVID pandemic. Director of AIMS, Dr. Randeep Gulera says, and I quote him, by rushing to the hospital, you're creating more chaos and not helping yourself, and you're actually denying a bed to a fellow citizen who may need it but may not get it because of unnecessary hospitalization of people who don't need to be in the hospital, unquote. The uncertainty of the course of the disease is a cause for mental stress for the patient as well as for the family. Therefore, it is important that this issue is discussed more and more and fears are allayed. And joining me today on the program, Dr. Nandini Sharma, Dean and Professor, Department of Community Medicine, Maulana Azad Medical College, and Dr. Meenu Vajpayee, Professor, Transfusion Medicine, Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, both of you, and thank you so much for joining us through this virtual platform.
Thank you.
Dr. Sharma, coming to you first. Central government and various state governments have appealed to the citizens not to panic and follow the rules to slow the spread of the COVID pandemic. And the COVID patients should not rush to the hospital out of fear and should adopt home isolation as an effective model. Your opening comments, ma'am.
That is absolutely the right approach because it's only 1% cases which really need hospitalization. But the only thing is that one has to remember that whatever message is being given for home isolation should be very clear and it should be followed because, we are seeing so many young deaths nowadays. What is happening is that people are not going to the hospital at the right time. And on the other hand, some people are rushing in too early. So in both the situations, there is some kind of a communication issue. Despite all the WhatsApp messages and all that are floating around, I have actually personally seen a young person with a oxygen concentration falling and just sitting at home. And I've seen people with absolutely no indication rushing to the hospital and asking us, give us an ICU bed. And that also, there is a VIP culture and all at play sometimes. So it needs to be really a balanced kind of approach where I think the communication will have to play a very great role, in which I think the media will have to play a great role in really putting the message across. Who needs to go and when do they need to go, really need to go.
All right, ma'am, you're making a very important point there and we'll discuss everything stepwise. So Dr. Vajpayee, earlier we saw a linear fall of corona infection cases in our country and also around the globe. Then there was a sort of complacency that had crept in about the preventive measures. Now we have to combat the second wave. So what do we do? How do we remain safe amid the surge?
Actually, when the first wave was over, by that time, COVID fatigue had set in. People had been isolating themselves, practicing social distancing, masks for a very long time. And they thought that now the danger is past and we can relax. And so there were a large number of gatherings, a lot of traveling going on, and basically socializing, because it is human nature that we want to connect with other human beings. Having said that, the issue is that it was not over, and it is not over yet. We need to practice. It's going to be here for some time, and we need to practice social distancing measures. We need to have masks on, and it is very important to avoid meeting, that is gatherings, especially indoor gatherings. So it is on. It is a very serious situation, and the best is the prevention. That's the best option, is prevention, because cure is always fraught with many loose ends. So prevention is the main thing, and that comes through masking. Now, the major issue with masks is that I have seen a lot of people wearing masks, but very few wearing the mask as they should. Proper technique of wearing a mask. Sometimes it's lying below the nose. Sometimes it's very loose around the face. So a few studies have come up which has shown that if you wear a tight fitting proper mask, it's going to be preventive. And at the same time, a loose fitting mask may not be so preventive. So it's not only what you do, it's also how you do it.
Absolutely. It's not only what you do and it's the matter, the focus, of course, has to be how you do it. And also the fact that prevention is better than cure. So, Dr. Sharma, I'd like to understand amid this surge, what do we need to do to stay safe?
As Dr. Meenu has already detailed, the personal, those preventive measures need to continue. The only thing is, yes, COVID fatigue had set in, fine. Now what happens is that large gatherings, it was basically, they were just generally becoming very common, and our leaders were also indulging in it. So obviously people take a lead. So they also thought that this is something which can be done, and all the celebrations and everything, which is very common in our country in any case, restarted. Now we have been taken by surprise because the second wave has got this high infectivity. It's not as if the first wave was less problematic, but now we have a high infectivity, like the R naught is possibly greater. So it's infecting a lot of people. So when the infectivity is so high, whole families are getting infected. Earlier in the first wave, if you noticed, it was one member affected and the others would be, mostly negative. But now it is whole family is getting affected. So the resources are constrained. You see, when a huge number overwhelms anywhere, even a developed country, resources would get overwhelmed. So in order to now actually, because basically you see the exponential spread has already started. The personal protective measures, preventive measures now become all the more important. So masking, of course, as Dr. Bajpayee said, proper masking, not the cosmetic masks that are being used nowadays. The 3-ply, the 3-layered surgical mask, possibly minimum, and in the hospital settings, the N95. So all those, the mask would first be the first measure, which has to be propagated on a very large scale. All those fines and all is fine, but then I think the community participation is very important. Now that people are in a panic state, and now if the message goes that this is a preventive measure and this is going to definitely protect you, they'll probably be more serious about accepting. Because we tend to accept something only when we perceive a risk. So we were not perceiving a risk when there was a lull. And so at that point in time, everybody gave up. They said, oh, what COVID, it's disappeared. And there were reports also, the second wave is not going to come on India. And since, now expert opinion is now reached to the general public, as I'm telling you, the WhatsApp messages are teaching more science than anything else. So everybody was under that impression and they wanted to believe it. You see, people wanted to believe that it's not going to come back, that we are now safe. And so all this behavior started. Mask first, social distancing second. So large gatherings totally to be banned. Small gatherings also indoor are very dangerous because it is that time when you let your guard down. You are with known people. Like even if you're just having coffee together, the time of 15 minutes or more together and somebody is speaking loudly, is infected. We do not know how many asymptomatics transmit, but there is a risk. So this kind of a situation where the infectivity is very high and you're sitting in close proximity, sitting without masks, spread is going to be very high. So social distancing or physical distancing and mask, this would be the first thing to be enforced, and through messages which leave nobody in doubt that this is possibly the only way, apart from hand washing and the sanitation which is required.
So absolutely, two important points that you're making, Dr. Sharma, that one, community participation is of paramount importance. And secondly, of course, you're cautioning us against those WhatsApp messages. But Dr. Bajpayee, as we are discussing it step by step, what should people do if they get symptoms of COVID-19 instead of getting into a panic mode?
The first thing is that if you're getting even the mildest symptoms, which are symptomatic of what COVID could be, that would include body ache, a mild fever, a beginnings of a sore throat, indigestion, vomiting, all these symptoms. The first and foremost thing is isolate yourself. You're doing a great service to everybody around you, including your loved ones, if you isolate yourself. The second is connect to the health authorities. Get yourself tested, and if you are positive, continue isolating, monitoring your symptoms. Almost all state governments have got helplines where the medical doctors give you support at home. So they will continue to monitor your situation in 6 hours. They will give you advice on how to go about it. If they feel the need, they will ask you to be admitted to a hospital. Now, the problem over here is what ma'am has already said, that is regarding the when to go to hospital. It should not be patient driven. It should not be the patient's relatives driven. It should only be medical advice. So if you have already connected to a medical helpline, they will definitely guide you on when to come, when you need hospitalization, and when you can sail through at home only with proper care. So these are things which are very important. There is a lot of things where the patient guides the doctor, that now you get my patient admitted, you give him oxygen or something. That should not be there, because you don't need 98-99% saturation all the time. And so if you're on room air, what is your saturation? That should be for the doctor to decide, not for the patient or the patient's attendants. So it is very clearly, very, very clear that we need a medical advice in this situation. And that's the core issue, medical advice.
All right, so let the doctors decide the course of action. But also, Dr. Sharma, if a COVID patient is at home instead of a hospital, what is it that they should watch out for?
As Dr. Bajpayee just described, the symptoms. The symptoms would be, of course, day one of the symptoms should be noted properly. You see, what happens is there's a 7 days viremia phase, when the fever will be there, indigestion, everything will be there. But after that starts the inflammatory time, that is most dangerous. Between day 7 and 10, that is seen to be the most dangerous. If there's an inflammatory response, so everything can go wrong at that time. So in the initial 7 days, one should keep monitoring all the symptoms, whatever symptom is there. If there's high fever, symptomatic treatment is needed. Hydration should be good, should drink plenty of fluids. Whatever medication has been prescribed, there are standard protocols. Every hospital has a standard protocol which is being followed. So the medical practitioner who the person is in touch with for home isolation would be giving them a kind of prescription that this is what you have to do. And that should be strictly followed. Oxygen level monitoring, the oximeters are being given for home isolation. That should be done 6 hourly at least, 4 hourly best. Temperature recording should also be done. And apart from that, whenever oxygen saturation dips below 94, the practitioner, whoever you're in touch with, should be informed. Because what we are looking at is if it falls below 92, then it is something dangerous. So, and between day 7 and 10, your practitioner, depending on the age group, depending on so many things, may advise certain blood tests also. Things like D-dimer, which shows that if there is coagulation happening, they would like to start some drug then. There would be the LFTs and KFTs because of the drugs that we are given, the liver function needs to be tested. So that is the advice that the practitioner is going to give you. The CRP levels, so if the inflammation rises, if the CRP level rises, so the practitioner who you are in touch with needs to see all those parameters, but they have to decide for you. Like supposing it is a very simple thing and you do not need a HRCT, high resolution CT chest, it is not required, do not force that it should be done. Sometimes, depending on certain age groups, you see, it's a medical advice which is most important because the doctor has to decide whether this particular person needs a baseline CT and also needs it on the 8th day or something. So it is not a uniform kind of a thing for everybody, except that monitoring of your symptoms, taking the medication as stated, getting the investigations done as stated is of utmost importance.
All right, we'll talk about the medicines in just a bit. But before that, Dr. Bajpayee, what about food? What about light exercises? What do you suggest?
When you're in a viral infection, you should rest as much as possible. Fluid intake is very important and it prevents a lot of complications. So fluid intake should be maintained. You should continue to eat. Sometimes people don't feel like eating. There's a loss of taste and that leads to a prolonged recovery phase. So it's very important to continue to have eat light food. It is very important to have what you call it fluids. And recently there's a lot of literature saying that if you lie prone on the bed, it improves the oxygenation. So that can also be tried for that would also be given as home advice for the patients. So these are the 3 areas where you should be. And about exercise, I would not advise exercise during the viral phase. You should rest as much as possible. And most important, isolate. Stay in the room.
Isolate, rest as much as possible, and of course, consume a lot of fluids. But Dr. Sharma, you were making a very important point about medicines. And at this juncture, I'm also reminded of what AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria advised countrymen that they shouldn't consider remdesivir as a magic bullet, as it is required only for a small percentage of COVID patients. As a doctor, Do you come under a lot of pressure from families of patients to undertake a certain type of course of treatment or medicine, and what should be done?
I think you have to be firm. Like remdesivir, we just seen the kind of chaos that has resulted, and it is only useful if given at a specific time, and it's only in certain that class of people who have, the HRCT findings are suggestive of moderate and severe kind of pneumonia, that it is useful. It is definitely useful. Personal experience in our hospital also we've seen, but it's only useful if it is given at the right time and to the right person. So there's no point in wasting. So, but what is happening is that many drugs are being tried because it's a new disease, evolving. We really don't know. For instance, ivermectin. Some people started, then some stopped, started again. But again, that is not a very harmful drug. So possibly one can go on. But so far as other things are concerned, like an antibiotic, some people are giving azithromycin, some people are giving doxycycline. Again, this is something which the protocol which you are following of that particular hospital or practitioner, you should definitely follow that protocol and not, start saying yourself that I want, let's say, favipiravir. Some people are taking this Fabiflu. Some are not giving it, some are giving it. So leave it to the discretion of your doctor, because as I told you, there is nothing is very specifically known even now that this is going to be 100% useful or this is the drug of choice. So we really are following kind of a conjecture, a hit and trial method. But by and large, now that we are into the disease for 1 year, we know mostly what works. But it has to be given at the right time and by the right doctor and to the right person, the person who needs it. Most people may not need it at all.
Right time, right person, and of course by the right doctor. So there's no point hoarding it. That's a very important point, and that's a very important message that you've given us, ma'am. But before we end this conversation, closing comments from both my guests on vaccination. Dr. Bajpai, now central government has expanded the COVID-19 vaccination program to include those above 18 years of age from May 1st. And in order to meet that demand, of course, players are ramping up that production also. The importance of vaccination.
There has been a lot of controversy regarding the vaccination, that there's breakthrough infection. But when even a single person who is vaccinated gets the infection, it becomes news and it's spread. So if you see the larger picture, vaccine has prevented infection, but it is not a foolproof, safe, foolproof treatment, or you say preventive measure. It's not foolproof. You get vaccinated, there is a chance, there's less chances of you getting infected with COVID. And secondly, if you contract COVID, there are chances of it being less severe. So these are two benefits of the vaccine. Chances that you may not get the infection are higher, and chances that you may not end up with a severe disease are higher with vaccination. So vaccination, if you can get it, you should get it done. And whatever evidence we have at this point of time, because in the COVID is a new disease and the evidence is ever changing. But what the best evidence at this current point of time is that you should get vaccinated. If you are eligible, go ahead, get vaccinated. It's going to save you.
Dr. Sharma, your take on vaccination.
It's a very clear message.
As I teach my students all about pandemics in epidemiology, it's like a fire is raging in a jungle. It's full of dry wood, which is all of us susceptible, because none of us had immunity to a new disease. Yeah. So unless you wet the wood in between, the fire is going to spread and consume the entire forest. So for wetting that, we earlier had nothing except social distancing, mask and all that. Now we have a vaccine. So if we vaccinate a critical mass, a large number, possibly this raging fire will stop. The pandemic will stop. So we need to vaccinate enough quickly. And we've seen the example of Israel. We've seen it in US. And our ultimate aim is, of course, to stop deaths. The first thing we should do is stop deaths. If it becomes something like a common cold or something, which you can really control, then it doesn't hurt us. There are so many diseases which are just endemic. So I believe vaccination is very, very important. The only recourse which we have right now to stop this pandemic. Everybody, please go get vaccinated. Don't believe in rumors. We need to spread this message. Everybody, there is absolutely nothing like all those things about clots and whatever is coming out. It needs to be critically reviewed. Earlier, these things were in the scientific realm. Only we people used to read it in our journals. Now, it's all over in the social media. Everybody knows, People in the streets are saying vaccine leni hai. They are saying, okay, remdesivir is important. They are saying vaccine causes clots. All this is a kind of a the infodemic which is going on is actually harming. So please, my appeal to everybody is please take the vaccine. There's no other way we can stop this fire.
Right, and closing comments, Dr. Sharma? Yes, Dr. Bajpai, go ahead. You wanted to make a point?
My final point is, if you are eligible and can get vaccinated, do it as soon as possible. This is one disease we can only fight together as a community. No individual can fight this disease. You cannot save your family if the community is not saved. So it's not each one for himself, it's each one for each other. If you want to save your near and dear ones, the community, everybody has to come together and practice safe measures like a mask, like social distancing, like vaccination. So if it's not yourself, it's for everyone around. Then only you can save yourself. That's my...
Sharma, so we conclude this discussion with your opening remarks about community participation.
Community participation, because when the community takes the onus of its own health on itself, then only any program or anything succeeds. Because people have to understand their health is in their hands and they have to get this message. Each one has to actually follow the COVID appropriate behavior and each one has to help each other. Not just by flooding the hospitals unnecessarily, that has to be prevented, but otherwise also everybody has to help everybody else. Otherwise, none of us will be safe and none of us will, most of us will not survive. So we all have to help each other and we all have to follow by following COVID appropriate behavior and helping in whichever way we can. Be it in the societies now they're setting up oxygen beds and all that. All those are initiatives which need to be taken. Community has to take responsibility and take its own health in their own hands. Don't rely only on the government doing something.
Of course, and as we are driving home this point, that patience and not panic is the key. And of course, as you said, Dr. Sharma, that do not believe on unsubstantiated messages on WhatsApp or on social media. On that note, thank you so much for joining us through this virtual platform on this very important discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all we had for you in this edition. But before that, let me remind you once again to stay safe from this coronavirus pandemic. Remember to wear your face mask and wash your hands and face regularly. Ensure physical distancing whenever you're stepping outside. These simple precautions are all it takes to defeat the pandemic. Take care. Goodbye.